Word. Perfect. Okay. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we were having command workshops for you guys, but then that we were also bringing on agents or admins or director of operations that are using command at a high level in their business, and just basically kind of make it an open discussion of what's working best for them. How did they start, just to kind of have that mastermind around it. So if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting any of you on the call, my name is Sydney Seymour. I'm the regional technology trainer for the Carolinas region, serving both North Carolina and South Carolina. So it's really nice to meet all of you and see your faces virtually and spend some time with you guys today. And so as I've been reaching out to Market Center leadership and just asking who in your Market Center is using command at a fairly high level, how are they doing it? What are they doing to find business that way? A name that I kept hearing was Jenna's name, who's with us on the call today. So thanks for being here, Jenna. So how appropriate, Jenna is the one that knows this, that today is actually Administrative Professionals Day. And so we have her on. So what I wanted to do is just kind of mastermind around for her team, how she's using command, some of the best practices for that, because what was really interesting is as I had the conversation with Jenna, she's using it in such a way that it doesn't matter if you're a solo agent, if you're running a team, if you're a member of a team, if you're an admin, if you're a rainmaker of the team. They've got some really interesting things that they're doing within command, how they're using command, and just some best practices that as they've started to use command, they've found out. So I'd love for this to be as interactive as possible. I've got the chat. I'm just going to pull up the chat really quickly over here. And I do have that open. So if you guys have questions or we want to kind of dive in deeper to a particular topic, we can absolutely do that. Feel free to also unmute yourself, and we can definitely provide plenty of time for discussion around anything that we're walking through. So Jenna, thank you so much for being here. And I just have some questions that we're going to kind of go through. And like I said, let's absolutely make the best discussion that we want out of this. So my first question is just like, walk us through what your team looks like. So just kind of give us the lay of the land of your team and introduce yourself, whatever you'd like to share as well.
Yes, my name is Jenna. I'm Director of Operations for Kennedy Homes of the Carolinas. It's a team in the Ballantyne Market Center. We have 6 producing agents and 2 admin, myself as Director of Operations, and then we also have someone to do marketing, our Director of Marketing. She covers all of our social media and just kind of takes that piece off my plate.
That's nice. And with the, you said 6 team members, 6 agents, right? Okay. And is that, have you always had the 6 agents? Has it grown into that?
It's fluctuated. Actually, in 2020, we really only had like 2 producing agents. So we've definitely picked up since then.
Okay, perfect. Love that. Okay, great. And so how long have you been with the team, Jenna? Oh, wait, I can't hear you. Hang on. Say it again, Jenna. I couldn't hear you for some reason.
I've been there since 2016.
Oh, 2016. Okay. So,
Okay,
great. Thank you for that. So you came in and there was no command when you first, I'm just trying to think of history. You came in and command was not an option. So what was the deciding factor, or why did you guys as the team decide to start using command, and when did you decide to start using command?
I was actually part of the tech committee and watching the whole progression of command getting up and running. I was kind of on the forefront of that. So as soon as we were able to turn it on, we immediately did. We were also at the same time going through like some transitions with the team and whatnot. So it just made sense to just go with the flow and just kind of start from scratch, and build it from there.
Okay. So we all know that everything in command really starts with the database. So I'd like to spend a good amount of the chunk of time speaking to the database in command. So walk me through, how do your agents on the team, how do they manage their database in Command. If they even do that, what do you as the director of ops, so what do you take on with the database and what do you leave up to the agent?
So a lot of our agents actually have like PySync turned on. So stuff just automatically gets dumped in there. I periodically time block and go through and try and clean it up as best as I can on behalf of the agents, because they need to be focusing on lead gen. But it is their responsibility to put the contacts in there initially, at least. And then I'll kind of go back in and just kind of double check every once in a while and make sure everything is tagged and people are on smart plans. I've set up a lot of triggers so that if they just tag them properly, the smart plan should start automatically anyway.
Okay. And so 2 questions. You said I go in and I make sure that the database has what it needs to have or that it's clean. And I think that's such a good point, because whether it's an individual agent, whether it's a team, a database is not just a list of first names, email addresses, and some other information. So when you're going in to clean up a contact, what are you really looking for and how are you managing that?
Sure. From the get-go, I want it to be 84% or higher on its health score. So ideally, at minimum, obviously, first and last name, email, and phone number. At minimum, if we can gather more, that's great. Especially like with past clients and that kind of thing, I'm adding, the home anniversary and all that kind of good stuff in there. So, but definitely want to at least get to 84%.
Okay. Has anybody here on this call, do you guys pay attention to the database percentage, the health score? Has anybody ever looked at that? Okay. A good amount of you guys. Yeah, I love that, right? So we can see that as a whole, what the entire database health score really looks like. And then we can see that on an individual contact and just seeing what we need to do there. So Jenna, let's say you go into a contact and it's missing an email address or it's missing one of those vital pieces of information. How do you guys get that? What do you do?
There's a couple of different tricks that I kind of try and do.
We want to know all the tricks. Share all the tricks.
Yes. So obviously my first go-to is to contact the agent it's assigned to and see if they dumped it from their cell phone, then most likely we'll have a number and not an email. If it's pulling from their Gmail account, then it's vice versa. So that's my first go-to, is because they probably already have it. I don't need to, do any more work than that. So that's step one. Step two, finding email addresses are more difficult than finding phone numbers, I've learned. So I will go and go the easy route first, right? So anybody who's missing a phone number, I utilize fastpeoplesearch.com. It's free. Okay. They're not 100% accurate every time. And sometimes they give you 6 different numbers and you don't know really what's right. So I kind of cross-reference that and use Google too. Sometimes you can get lucky there, putting in email addresses, names, sometimes they'll come up. Also, I've noticed that at least with my Rainmakers account, there's a lot of agents in there, again, pulling from either email or his cell phone, so lacking information. So I'm utilizing our MLS for those as well.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a key point. A couple of things you mentioned there. It's good to have agents in your database as well, because if we want to send out like a new listing or anything like that, we just need to know who they are, right? So we need to understand and know that that's an agent, and finding that for them. And that's interesting that phone numbers are easier to find than email addresses. That's interesting, I would think. Love that. Okay. You also mentioned tagging. So you mentioned the importance of tags. So I guess my first question would be, why are tags important to you, and how do you manage them?
Sure. Again, when we did at least our initial dump of the database into Command, there's no tags. Prior to me joining the team, there wasn't really a whole lot of organization in regards to the database. So I had to kind of take it upon myself to clean that up as best as I could. But the importance of having tags is so that we can have the best conversation with these people when we call them. If they are an agent, we don't want to talk to them like they're a buyer, so even that small minor detail can make a huge difference when having conversations and setting them up on the correct smart plans. And there have been times where that's happened. We have them on an agent smart plan when they're not an agent, or vice versa. So it's definitely super important. And the fact that the triggers came out this year is very helpful as well. It's just saving that one extra step and getting those smart plans set up. As long as you tag them, they're automatically on those smart plans, and it's a breeze once you get to that point. So organization is super important. I know that you definitely wanted me to mention this. I don't know if you want me to talk about it now or later.
Go ahead,
but
please. Yeah.
Okay. The scripts that I've drawn up for our team members to help me leverage the database. So I kind of have just a generic script for our agents to call anybody who isn't tagged. Meaning I don't know where they came from. I don't know who they are. I've been able to get some information, or it's just information we had before. But for them to kind of reach out and find out if they own their home, where they are, what's going on with the process, and then tag them accordingly and make sure that they are on some sort of smart plan specific to their needs. So our entire database is on at least the monthly newsletter.
Okay.
But we want something, if they're a potential buyer, we want something catered to that. If they're a seller, we want something catered to that. If they're a referral agent, we want them set up on something towards that. So it's very generic script, just kind of finding out who they are and then moving forward. And, I told them that if they're having good conversations, then those particular leads are going to be assigned to you. So they can move forward with those from there.
I love that. So what are they asking in the script? Like, really, what is it, that simple, or what are they saying?
Yeah, it's a very basic, just introducing themselves. Hi, I'm such and such with Kennedy Homes of the Carolinas at Keller Williams. Just calling in. It's more of like a checkup, see how you're doing kind of conversation. And then as part of that conversation, asking if they currently own their home. So that's going to tell us a lot of information just depending on their answer, and how to move through the script that way.
Got it. Yeah, it's just, I think that's a really great tip and a really good point, Jenna, because I think sometimes we think it has to be this whole like lengthy script of I'm calling with this reason or whatever it might be. And so it's literally just because if we find out that they own their home and we're in the market that we're in today, and then we kind of can pay attention to potentially what neighborhood they're in, how much equity they might have in the house, like that kind of opens everything for that.
Yeah. And, if they own their home, then we get their address and can put them on the neighborhood nurture. So they can get updates about what's going on in their neighborhood, surrounding areas. And then if they say no, well, okay, then you're a potential buyer at some point. So now we can put you on a buyer smart plan. So, I mean, it's very simple, easy, and just, you're just calling a friend, seeing how it's going.
Yeah. You're not overcomplicating it in any way. Yeah, which is so important. So you mentioned the importance of tags. Are you using custom tags that you have come up with that work best for your team? Are you using the system tags that are already there? Are you using a hybrid of both?
We're definitely utilizing both. I try and use the system tags as much as possible because they are pretty generic and basic, but we do have some additionally that work for us and what we've got going on. I actually have tags for each of our individual agents, especially for when people leave the team for whatever reason, they're out of real estate or whatnot. But at least the contact is still tagged who originally had it, so that when we do follow up with our past clients, we can refer to the correct person. I haven't figured out a way besides just writing in the notes section, a better way of keeping track of who it belonged to in just the contact area. Obviously,
Got it.
opportunities is completely separate. So by me utilizing the tags for that purpose, it just makes our conversation a little more intimate with the person referencing this specific agent on the team that did handle it. So that's one way that I'm doing it. And then obviously, like, well, what I do for our agents too, if they have something specific that they want to use as a tag, I first have a discussion with them and make sure that it makes sense to do that, because that tag will also be able to be utilized by everyone on the team. It's not just specific to them.
Right.
So if we can incorporate it with a tag that we've already got, for instance, I'll just use allied resources because that's a huge umbrella, right? And I did have a team member want to say, oh, well, can we use attorney? I said, no, that actually falls under the allied resources category. And if you just go down to the bottom, you can just add attorney at the bottom there within the contact. So there's not really a need to do an additional on top of that. So if it makes sense, we'll go ahead and use it. But I try not to do too much because sometimes it just gets a little overwhelming.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get like almost tag happy
Right.
and we're almost like overcomplicating it. And then it's like this one contact can have so many tags associated with it. And I like that you're really using the tags to tell the story of the contact and how that contact is engaging with your team. And I love what you just said. So anybody that's on here that is on a team or the admin for a team, like that is something I would absolutely start. I love that you said we tag it based off of the contact, or I'm sorry, the team member who's having the contact with them. Because I think the last thing we ever want to do, Sue knows anytime she's on this call, I'm going to pick on her, but Sue joins my team and then Sue decides she's getting out of real estate and she leaves. She's been continuing to cultivate and nurture this contact, and then that stays with the team. The last thing I want to do is have a conversation with that consumer that Sue's been cultivating and have to start back from square one. So I think that's such a valid point for teams, but also I would challenge individual agents to think, how can I use those tags to kind of remember the conversations as well?
Could you, I'm sorry if it's okay if I ask a question.
Yes, please, Jamie.
Could you give us some examples? I'm a solo agent and I'm on the elite team with Jen Dixon and Mike McCann. Yeah. And we're trying to still, they're letting us keep our brand and they're kind of letting us be solo, but we're also kind of mimicking some of the benefits of a team. Yeah. And one of the things that I am challenged with is learning how to, for future references, to properly tag. I came from medical, so a lot of my thinking is I'm still in patient care. So I like the fact that when doing the contacts, we can do the notes and stuff, but my challenges is for the tagging. So I can better organize. Could you give some examples of how you would tag people for your team and stuff?
Oh, sure. So it's almost, everybody's business is going to be different, and the way that you want to communicate with your database is going to be different. So we do a lot of events. We work with animals, rescues, adoptions, that kind of thing. That's something that's big and important to us. So one of our tags has dogs. So whenever we have an event catered around that, we want to make sure that we're sending that information out to the people in our database that do have animals, specifically to them, so that they're aware of what's going on, what we're doing, and how they can also get involved if that's something that they want. So that's just one example. We do have someone on our team who was previously in the finance business. He was a financial advisor. So he wants something catered to people he used to work with in the financial world. So we have tags catered specifically to that. It's just business owner, I think, is what we have it catered at. So that kind of is a broad statement, but for his specific database, he knows what that means. And for other people, they can also use that tag for whatever they want to. But it was specifically created for him, but we made it a broad tag so that others could use it as well. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it's just, I just don't want to, like Sydney was talking about, I don't want to over tag. so that when I am
Right.
trying to do more targeted groups, that it's not like 500 tags attached to the one person. And I'm like, am I over tagging them? Am I under tagging them? Because the last thing I want to do is maybe forget a whole entire group and potentially lose a group. So
it's more so you just need to, what I would do if I were you is get out a piece of paper and just write down all the different types of groups or people that you communicate with. And then kind of shrink it down, see which ones you can combine to make more of a broader group. So
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought about it too. Like agent is a system tag, and that's very, very broad.
Right.
So there's also the KW agent to separate those. And allied resources, I'll bring that up again because that's a huge umbrella. I mean, that's all kinds of inspectors, appraisers, attorneys. I mean, it's everything. So it's just a broad statement, but still they all kind of do fall into that one category. So I would just make your list and then see which ones you can combine to shrink it down a little bit.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Thank you.
And then Jamie, I would add one thing. I love that exercise that you brought up, Jen. I think that's awesome. But one thing I would add as well is look at, if you're not there yet, look at like your past 10 sales once you get them and find out where they all came from. Because that's telling you that is something that's working. So if we see like all of these leads came in from Facebook, all of these people came from a virtual open house that I held, all of these, right? So look at when you're closing transactions, where did those people come from? Because that's working from you. And I think of tags as sometimes as we want to track the return on our investment. And so we want to clarify. I know it can be a lead source as well, but if we're wanting to market differently for tags, that might be a good one too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. And it's just, like I said, my mind is I try, so I was brought up on Epic. I don't know if you guys know about Epic. So Epic was very, it is very intense, and it's in the patient care world. And when, like I was talking about the notes, they kind of have those tabs to help, sorry about it, those tabs to help understand that patient, their vitals, their care. It's kind of like, and they call it a snapshot. And that's the only way I can kind of, connect to it. So I really like the breaking it down, kind of grouping them. And Sydney brought up a good point. It's like tracking your lead source. So at least oh, well, I'm better at AOD, or I'm better at Facebook, or, so those are good points. Thank you.
Yeah. That's a great question. Okay. So I feel like we'll move maybe a little bit out of contacts. I'd like to start to talk about, we have contacts, and then how you guys cultivate, how you nurture them. So walk me through smart plans, how you use smart plans, when you add someone to a smart plan. You mentioned that you use the tags and the triggers. So just kind of give me an overview of how you and the team use smart plans.
Sure. Yeah. So I have everyone on the newsletter, and I steal all of my smart plans from the library.
Okay.
I've never created one from scratch. So
that's what they're there for. So
I know I'm not a very creative person, but I'm really good at editing other people's work. So that's what I do. I go in and find something that works for me. I also am on a lot of webinars with Nick Baldwin and all those wonderful people who are just crazy good at these. So especially if they mention something that's worked for them, I will immediately go and steal it. I go through every single step, make sure that it applies to my market. So a lot of the terminology has to be changed, information switched around a little bit, make sure I'm taking that agent's contact information off of there if they're not using the little form fields. So to make it obviously work for us. Also, if one of our team members is looking for something in particular, they do not have the ability to create their own smart plans. It has to run through the Rainmakers account. So they'll bring it to my attention. We will work together to find something and make it work. But I also have to make sure that it's going to work for the whole team.
Got it.
I'm not going to waste my time creating a smart plan just for one person if no one else is going to be able to use it. So it's got to make sense for the entire team. But if I can put it on a trigger, I put it on a trigger. I have the buyers are on a trigger, sellers are on a trigger, referral partners are on triggers. It just makes things so much easier. Facebook leads, when those come in, those are automatically set up on smart plans as well. So I make it as easy as possible for myself.
No, I love it. So Jenna, if nobody on the call has ever used like the tag triggers in smart plans, just walk through what that is, how that works.
Yeah. So on any smart plan that you create, the very first line at the top after you name the smart plan, when you're in the editing section of it, is to add a trigger. You don't have to add a trigger, but you can. And you just literally pick the tag that you want to set the smart plan off. So there's like a quarterly referral agent type plan. Just add the trigger referral partner. Anybody that you end up tagging from then on out with referral partner, that smart plan will automatically start.
So do you find, I feel like the number one thing for that would be we're saving time, right? Because I'm all about, if I can find one little thing that can help me save time, I want to use it. But let me ask you, do you also find that less stuff gets forgotten? Meaning it's less people of like, did I add them to that smart plan? Are they getting followed up? Do you find that it's helped with that as well?
Definitely, for sure. And sometimes it's kind of crazy because, when you log into Command, your tasks come up.
Yeah.
And like, I'll have like 20 tasks and I'm like, what in the world happened?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I tagged 20 people yesterday. So that's why it just makes it seamless and so much easier to just kind of let it go, and it does its own thing. The text messages go out, emails go out, the tasks show up. I know when to send cards for home anniversaries, all that stuff's all taken care of.
Now, how has the been, and you might not know the answer to this, and if you don't, that's completely fine, but because you mentioned that everybody is on the monthly neighborhood nurture. So that 30 days, here's what's happening in your neighborhood, whatever it might be. How has the reception been from the consumers that are receiving that information?
I don't have everyone on the neighborhood nurture. Okay. Just obviously the people we have addresses for. Right. But the monthly newsletter is when I have pretty much everyone on. Even some agents are on it too, just because it's for whatever reason. But I get a lot of response, and I also have it set up so that the whoever is the agent assigned, if somebody replies, it will go straight to that agent.
Okay.
You're following? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So if they are replying to that email, the buyer's agent that is assigned to that contact is the one getting the email.
Yeah, they are getting the response, so they'll be able to communicate with them very quickly and get responses on that. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's so important because that's the person that's nurturing the relationship. And that to me is that consumer is raising their hand, and they might not be raising their hand to say, come list my house today, or I want to find another house today, but they are raising their hand and showing that we're having that one-to-one engagement, which is really important.
Yeah. And I love it too, because, we also find out if the email addresses are not valid anymore, and it's something that we need to work on. Yeah. Those kickbacks come, and we can definitely research that and figure out what's going on there, whether it was their job that they left or whatever. But yeah,
which has been stuff we need to know.
Yeah,
I mean, leaving a job, moving to a new job. I mean, these are all things that real estate decisions happen around these life changes. So I think that's so important that you know that. Yeah. Okay. I want to dive into opportunities because the number one question that I get from agents is, at what point do I create an opportunity? So I would love to hear from you, meaning what has to happen for an opportunity to be created? Because just because they're a contact in your database does not make them an opportunity. So what is your system or your model for that?
So ideally, if you're having a conversation about real estate, an opportunity needs to be started.
Okay.
The way that I have our checklist set up is straight from Cultivate. Is I just had a conversation. They want to buy in a year. They want to buy in 2 years. Doesn't matter. You've had a conversation. They have interest in purchasing a home or selling their home. An opportunity should be started. Doesn't always happen that way. Phone calls happen in the car, whatever, but worst case scenario, when it's time for paperwork to be done, that would be the last second for when you need to start that opportunity. But ideally in Cultivate, you've got to get it started then so you can make sure you're following up.
Okay. So something has happened where the consumer is saying, we want to sell, we have to make it through this school year. We want to buy, we're renting until October. But something is happening. It's a two-way conversation about real estate. And at that point, you're creating it and putting it into the Cultivate phase. Okay. And are they staying on a smart plan at that time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And probably a specific either buyer or seller, Cultivate, whatever that might be.
Right. Yeah. Depending on where they are and what's going on. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Now, because you're on a team, and I know people watching this or people here will have, again, individual agents, teams. So who creates the opportunity? Do you create it as the director of operations? Does the agent create it? Is it a mishmash? Walk me through what that is.
Yeah. It for our team, it is the agent's responsibility to create their own opportunity. There have been instances where I need to do it because they're on the run or whatever it is, but the rule of thumb is the agent needs to create it. It's their pipeline. They're the ones tracking their income. It needs to be on them.
Okay. Got it. So they're creating that. And then are you using all of the stages? Are they moving it into an appointment phase when they do that?
Yeah. Yep. So I've changed the names of all the stages to fit not only our market, but what our team does.
Okay.
Like we utilize coming soon. I know everyone doesn't do that, but that is one of the phases that I have. I've changed like the escrow period to due diligence period. I've changed Cultivate to be, I think it's 12 plus months out, 3 to 12 months, and then 0 to 3 months, the different stages there. So I've definitely created everything to make it more fluid for our business.
Yeah, I think that's one of what you just said is one of the best tips that I've even changed my opportunities to, because under the Cultivate phase, I think it's like cold, warm, or hot by default. And those to me are very confusing. I'm just kind of better with like rule of thumb. What's the time frame for that? So I definitely think that 12 plus that 6 to 12 and 0 to 3 or whatever it might be. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now walk me through checklist. So are you the ones that created those under the team account for that?
Yes, I created a checklist and they change all the time. When we realize, oh, we should probably add this to it or whatever, or our systems are changing a little bit. So it's an ongoing thing, but yeah, I created all the checklists. Some stages they have 20 things, some only have 1, but it just depends on what's going on in that particular section of the deal, what needs to be done. But I mean, I even separated it. This is an admin task and this is an agent task.
Okay.
So that an agent can just briefly look quickly and be able to tell what's their responsibility and just ignore the ones that say admin. And they can quickly go through. Again, just trying to save as much time as possible.
Now, this is a safe space, so we can have a candid discussion here. But sometimes agents join a team, they've never used Command before, and it's like, wait, I don't get, this is new to me. I don't know, like, so how have you received that buy-in from the agents on the team for them I think most importantly to use opportunities, because the contacts is like, you're going to have to do that in anything, right? But the opportunities is where it's a little bit different. So how did you maybe kind of, was there a mindset check there? How did you get buy-in from them? What did they think about it?
It's partially on me as part of onboarding to explain as best I can in detail the importance of it. A lot of people love the checklist aspect because they can know that they're not missing a step as long as all those boxes are checked.
Mm-hmm.
But another big part of it is actually the other people on the team. They're constantly talking about, Jenna, I need your help with the opportunity or blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what are they talking about? But it's just the communication and the fact that everyone else on the team is utilizing it and understands the importance of it and love it actually. That actually helps a lot with buy-in.
Okay. It's basically, this is the way, right? This is
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you find that they like that they can see how much they're potentially making when we're looking at the pipeline? Do they like that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Seeing that huge number on the end. Again, that is also a major point of starting the opportunity as soon as possible because your potential and probable income is going to change based on what you actually input yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's really nice. Someone was telling me we were doing an interview similar to this with the team, and they were saying, we're like first quarter in and we've already hit our goals for like 7 months in, right? And they know that because they're able to see everything in the pipeline. And so then they're able to, number one, celebrate the success, but then just like keep going and let's just see, let's up our goals a little bit there.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay. So the question that I always like to ask is, knowing what you know now of how you set up Command, how you guys have used Command, what's something that you would have done differently if you could go back and start from zero again?
Cleaning up the database before importing it into Command, getting that organized, heck of a lot better because I've had to go in multiple times and clean it up, organize it. And especially with the updates with Command and stuff like that over time, then we had the legacy tags. I don't even want to get into all that, but just going in multiple times to clean it up, which in a way is also good because I am touching these leads, contacts over and over again and making sure they are legit and correct. But I definitely would have done a lot more with them before just dumping everything into Command. That's for sure.
That's a great point. And a lot of times for agents that are new to the business, but they're coming with a database, or for people that are building a team, a lot of times they'll always ask, well, should I, I have this spreadsheet, should I just go ahead and dump it in Command and then clean it up? Or should I clean it up first? So do you think you would say like clean it up first, get it as clean as you can, and then let's add it?
Yeah, I would definitely, if you've got it on like an Excel spreadsheet,
yeah,
because you can kind of have a quick view of everything, that's going to be a whole lot easier than going into each contact one at a time. You can get a quick view of, okay, here's all their, property addresses, right? And you can see all the blank spaces you have on the spreadsheet of what's missing. Definitely, it's going to be a lot easier visually for you to take care of it that way.
Yeah. I think you can also see, like, I think we've all done that, like, oh, let's export our contacts from Gmail. And it's like contacts that are not, you have no idea who they are, or the first name is a phone number or what. And it's like,
yeah. Now I will say this about Google Contacts though, they have the merge feature. So if you've got a ton of contacts in your Gmail and you're not using the sync for it, the PySync and the settings, I would go into your Google Contacts and look at all of your potential merge. There's a whole section, and merge all those people before you import them. Otherwise, you're going to have three of the same person. They have 3 different emails because it's their work and their home and their kid or whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead and merge all of them so you don't have to worry about trying to do that later.
That's a great point. Just take a little bit of time, do the cleaning ahead of time, and then get them in. Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should?
I think the only other thing that I definitely wanted to mention was tags in opportunities.
Please. Yeah, go ahead.
So I also tag the agent assigned to them in opportunities. So I have that as a contact tag, and then I also have it as an opportunity tag. And that's just visually appealing to me.
Okay.
I know that if you have like the business card view in opportunities, it has like their initials. Well, if
Yeah.
we've got two people with the same initials,
Got it.
that doesn't help me quickly, see whose it is.
Okay.
So I use that as a tag. I also do a tag for land. So deals that are land, deals that are new construction, and any one that was a referral. And that's, again, just visually quickly, I can see exactly what's going on without having to open it up and click here and do that. I can just visually quickly put my eyeballs on it.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. I think opportunity tags are obviously not used as much as contact tags, and I think can be just really nice. My brain, I feel like, works the same way yours does. So for me, for me to see that and to visualize it and to see the tags associated with it, I like that.
I just realized that it just made it a lot easier if I'm quickly needing to find a deal and I can't necessarily remember the person's name. But I know it was the only land deal that we have under contract. I can quickly just pick it up and click on it.
Well, and I think because you all have a system where they're being entered into Cultivate, potentially kind of there could be some time there. So having that ability to organize it and to search by, because I can only imagine like what that Cultivate looks like.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, when you have so many. So to be able to kind of like really feed through them and to filter by tags, I would imagine could be really important for that. Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up. That's really great. All right, so it's almost 2:45 on the dot. So I just want to open it up. If anybody has any specific questions, anything you want to pick Jenna's brain about, any questions or anything to add from anyone on the call?
I have one. When you were talking about tagging the opportunity with land and stuff, where did you go to tag it? Is it just through the contact, or did you go somewhere else to tag specifically that it was land or whatnot?
Yeah. So when you go and you create the opportunity, it's where you go in and you actually, I think you can't do it when you actually create the opportunity. However, once the opportunity is created, there's the detail tab where you actually can put in the dates of your appointment, when the contract was signed, when the agreement was signed, when it closes, when you put those dates in. There's a section there for tags where you can add the tags there. However, you need to create the tags in settings first. So you have contact tags in settings, and then you have opportunity tags in settings. They're two separate things. So you would just have to make sure that you go in there and do that first.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can even color code them if you want to do that.
Yep, that's what I do.
Yeah. Someone that I know that he's a rainmaker on a team, and one of the tags, he's basically like stepping out of the business. He's running a 7th level team. He's only jumping in when he needs to. And so one of the tags is his name is George, get George in on conversation. It's said better than that as a tag. But so George knows, okay, I just need to go in and filter by that tag. Is there anything, like as a rainmaker, we can kind of scan and see, is there anything I need to be pulled into for that?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyone else? Questions or anything to add or discuss? We are good. All right. Jenna, thank you so much for your time today. This has been really, really helpful to just hear it from someone that's using it on a day-to-day basis. So you brought really great points that I've never heard before and just some best practices. So I just so appreciate your time and you doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, you guys, I'm going to